Proposal 1 is defeated. What's next? Is there Detroit fatigue in the legislature? The presidential race gets pretty crowded, and the headlines we're talking about. Stay put. My Week starts right now.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta.
Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us for My Week. I'm Christy McDonald. Prop 1 is done. Wasn't even close. Voters across the state of Michigan overwhelmingly said no way to the convoluted roads plan on Tuesday. So that Plan B that no one was talking about, it's what everyone is demanding now. Coming up, what are lawmakers doing this week to craft an alternative? And can it be done quickly enough to impact the rapid deterioration of our roads? Also, the legislature has another big proposal to consider. Will Governor Snyder's plan for Detroit public schools go over well in Lansing, or is Detroit fatigue settling in? We'll tackle that coming up. Plus, a big week for presidential contenders. The list just keeps on growing. We'll look at the role that Michigan plays in the campaign and the election, and if Governor Snyder's name will be on that list, and a few of the headlines that grabbed our attention this week. It is all coming up for you on My Week. But we do start with Proposal 1. Voters across Michigan made it very clear this was not the right plan to fix the state's crumbling bridges and roads. In fact, it was the most one-sided loss ever for a proposed amendment to the 1963 state constitution. 80% of voters who went to the polls, or 1.4 million Michigan residents, said no to raising the state sales tax and triggering funding for road repairs. Just 20% voted yes. The voter turnout was just under 25%. And so the talk turns to what happens now. And that is where we begin our discussion with our My Week contributors, Nolan Finley of the Detroit News and Stephen Henderson of the Detroit Free Press. Gentlemen, no surprise what happened this week on Tuesday. But before we jump into, okay, what is going to happen now, let's take a look at the staggering defeat here, Nolan. Did you think it was going to be this large?
No, I don't think anybody could have anticipated that. I would have thought 60-40 would have been the worst. I thought perhaps they'd go 55-45, but that was the biggest whooping I think anything's ever received at the ballot box in Michigan, at least in my time here.
And so it was a pretty early night. I mean, we had the feeling all along that this is the way it was going to go, but the amount between.
I was home by 9 o'clock, 9:15 on an election night. I can't ever remember that happening. You usually have to at least wait till 10.
We barely got to eat the newsroom pizza before it was over.
That's usually the big deal on election night. You get the newsroom pizza.
It was not close, and that's it's unfortunate that it wasn't that it didn't do better. It's not unfortunate. I think that it didn't pass because I think the solution we'll get now will not be as comprehensive or long-term fix. We'll end up with something shorter term that maybe fixes the roads but doesn't deal with a lot of these other problems.
Well, I think that's the ideal solution. One of the problems with Prop 1 is it tried to do way too much. I think a simple sales tax increase with all the money going to the roads, and then you deal with the revenue shift in later legislation might have passed. In fact, polling indicates there was support for a clean bill. But when they start larding it up with all of these other things that had nothing to do with roads, it became very confusing. And, one of the things that hasn't been talked about much here is that they put all of these extra add-ons to appease Democrats when this proposal was being crafted, and then the Democrats walked away from the plan. The party walked flat out away from it. And, if a clean bill is all that's going to be accepted here.
I mean, I agree that it was complicated, but the reason it was complicated is because the way we fund roads and local government and schools right now is complicated, and this was an attempt to untangle everything so that gas taxes and things that have to do with roads would pay for roads, and other taxes would pay for other things. That's not, I mean, I don't think you can blame the legislature for trying to untangle a mess that's been tangled like that for 20 years.
No, but it raised about this proposal would have raised about $800 million beyond the
New
roads,
money,
about 40%.
sure.
And there's not an appetite for that. Michigan has never passed a tax hike, a statewide tax hike, without offsetting it with another tax cut. This was a reach from the beginning. It was a tough proposal to sell. We backed it even knowing that it probably wasn't the ideal solution. But what they have to do now is go back and find the ideal solution. And I think it remains going to raising the gas tax. Was what they should have done in December when gas prices were $1.90 a gallon. You've got to raise gas prices by at least, or the gas tax by at least 20 cents a gallon, and you've got your money.
Okay, so some of the numbers that you were alluding to about what people are thinking now was a recent poll that said about 65% of Michiganders would say, you know what, I would raise the sales tax if I knew it was going to go directly to roads. But now 87% that were polled earlier said this is the #1 priority now that I want the legislature and the governor to work on. Do we think that it is going to have to come out of the legislature, that it's not going to be another ballot initiative, it's not going to be something that the voters are going to decide, that a solution for the road, Stephen, has to come out of Lansing?
Well, you don't need people to vote unless you're going to change the Constitution. And the only constitutional change I could think of that you would come up with this is a sales tax increase, which again was not about, the sales tax was not going to pay for roads. That was going to pay for the money you were losing from the fuel taxes you were getting rid of that pay for local governments and schools. So I think it will come out of the legislature at this point. I mean, there's no reason that that they can't. But again, people have to understand this is short-term thinking, and this is the short-sighted policy making. Raising the gas tax. The gas tax is going to yield less and less money over time because fuel efficiency is really ramping up. People are driving vehicles that don't suck as much gas down. That's not a long-term solution.
Well,
it'll fix it for now.
the wholesale shift helped ease some of that
Perhaps.
that long-term impact. But yeah, it's got to be a legislative fix. I mean, there's no way there's funding for another ballot proposal or an appetite for it. And it doesn't have to be a short-term fix or a cosmetic patch. The governor should keep these folks in Lansing until they have a comprehensive solution, a solution that fixes the roads and brings us back to where we need to be. You keep them, you make this part of the budget process. He should not sign a single budget bill until they get a solution for roads. He shouldn't let them head to the beaches and golf courses in June. He should keep them in Lansing. What we don't need is a study committee for the summer because it'll never get done. That's the mistake they made last year.
So you're looking at a little bit of leadership here. You think that a leadership role is going to make the difference here?
I think the governor has to lead on this. Yesterday he was a little bit soft on whether he would call a special session or not. He's got to be very clear to the legislature, we're going to get this done whatever it takes. I mean, he can't be gentle with them at this point. And, you know, he's got to be there pushing and pulling them to a solution.
All right, so now let's start to look at the various proposals or the various things that are starting to be floating out there. We look at the Speaker of the House, Kevin Cotter, is talking about maybe we should start looking at some of these restricted funds that are being held right now that legislatively you would have to change to be able to access them, the things that are being held for education or for economic development. And you've got the Democrats saying, well, you're giving all these tax breaks to big businesses. Maybe you should be pulling back on that and using some revenue from there. So, Stephen, what are we starting to see an actual viable plan that's going to float?
I think that you start with the gas tax. They're gonna look at how to raise the gas tax in a way that gets you enough money to raise the $1.5 billion or whatever it is that the governor says he needs to start fixing the roads. But again, I think if that's all you do and you don't go any further, I don't think that's good policy making. I think there's an opportunity here to do some other things. I think there is an opportunity to revisit the burden that we have cast on individuals versus business in this state and what we have gotten for it, what we haven't. And again, businesses use roads more so in this state than the individuals do. And so if we're going to have to pay more for roads, what's the ask we ought to be making of them? That's a conversation they ought to have. I'm not saying that you ought to roll back the $1.8 billion in tax breaks they got 3 years ago, but that number is the same as the number we're talking about raising off individuals for roads. That's not something you can just let go without a discussion. And then I also think you got to talk about some of the other things that could be done. Long-term gas tax not going to pay for what we need for the roads. We need $2 billion a year more to get the roads up to a condition that everybody would be happy with. Where should the rest of that money come from?
Nolan, what is the best plan that you think that
well,
is going to start to come out?
Let's talk about the worst plan, and that would be going back and putting an oppressive tax burden on business again. We had that for a long time in this state, and we weren't growing. We've given tax relief to job creators, and what's happening? We're creating jobs and economic development. I don't think you want to mess with that. I think it's got to be user fees. And I would disagree that business don't pay their fair share of that. They buy gasoline probably as much as anyone else. So you could raise truck weight fees, registration fees. You can raise the gas tax, but it's got to be user fees. And this business is about going to this pot of money and that pot of money and finding little gimmicks and one-time. A lot of that's not constitutional anyway. It's not legal. I mean, you have somebody out there saying, well, we could raid the catastrophic claims fund. I mean, you can't do that. And yet, the bills are going through. They've got to get realistic about what they can do and what they can't do. And if they can't get this done, I think the people of Michigan ought to be really thinking about what they're getting for the money they're spending on the legislature. We're one of 11 states with a full-time legislature. Given the disdain people have coming out of this for the legislature, this might be a good time to go to put a part-time legislative proposal on the ballot.
There are people who are sitting at home are thinking, you know what, there should be enough money in Lansing to figure out how to get this done. Why should we have to have any kind of fee raise? Why should there be any kind of new tax? Is there anywhere that they could cut across the board, Stephen? And I know other people are floating those ideas as well. Do we have enough money in the pot somewhere along the line to shift it around? People will be wondering.
The question is, what do you want to give up? What do you want to do less of? To shift money to pay for roads. We've already taken $9 billion away from local government in the last 15 years through revenue sharing cuts. Schools are not keeping pace with funding nationwide. We are slipping down that ladder. Higher ed is slipping even more down the ladder in terms of rank order, in terms of what we pay for it in the state. There's not that much that state government actually does that's discretionary. It's a fraction of the budget that you have a choice about where you spend it or where you don't. We need more money for most things in this state, I think. I think we need more money for higher ed and schools and local governments and roads. So this idea that there's just money sitting around that can be used for these things, it's not so.
What do you expect to see now in the next week, Nolan?
A lot of posturing, a lot of proposals that don't make a whole lot of sense. This across-the-board cut idea is the worst way to govern. It assumes that there's built-in fat in every single department. There's places they can get money. I'd take a quarter of the corrections budget and say, let's revisit who we're locking up and why and for how long.
But you need comprehensive sentencing reform to do that.
Yeah, exactly, and they're not going to do that.
Take a long time.
They're not going to cut education. So they can pretend they can find this money, but the main silos of cash in this state are education, welfare and health care, corrections, transportation, and local government. I mean, which of those are they going to cut? And so all of this notion that, well, we got a $52 billion budget, we could find $1 billion in that. They've got a $9 billion discretionary general fund.
Right.
That's a whole different challenge to get $1 billion out of that. So I think the governor's going to put a plan on the table that raises user fees, and he's going to have to bust some heads to try to get it passed.
All right. Well, so we should be prepared for a bumpy ride. See what I did there?
You
That's
should.
a good one.
I mean, one of the things that Democrats would need to stick to is the idea that if you raise these taxes, it's going to hit poor people harder. Restoring the earned income tax credit, which was part of this proposal.
Part of the proposal people rejected. That will not be in there, Steve.
That wasn't the reason that people rejected it.
You start larding this up again with non-road spending,
they're not going to vote
and
on
they're never going to get it to pass. The Democrats had a chance to support this bill, and they walked away from it. I don't think they have any leverage at the table now.
All right. Well, while legislators have to figure out road funding, which doesn't make them very popular on that front, they're also taking a look at Governor Snyder's plan for Detroit Public Schools that he released late last week. And part of that plan has to address the debt the district has. And while no extra taxpayer dollars would be requested, the Citizens Research Council estimates that every other district in the state would have to take a hit, about $50 per pupil, to send additional revenue to DPS. Other districts aren't happy about this, and this really leads to kind of a bigger issue. Is there such a thing as Detroit fatigue? And is it just regional or is it statewide? And Nolan, I'm going to start with you on this.
Yeah, I think there was a little golden period last year when people got enthused and excited about helping Detroit, and they saw the opportunity to finally get the city off its, on its feet and become a contributor rather than a drain on state resources. I think that's passed. I can't imagine lawmakers going back to their local communities and saying, look, we're taking $50 a kid out of all of your schools so we can ship it to Detroit. It's not going to happen. And I'm not sure if it were any other school district in the state, you would get approval for that. These districts are operating for the most part on shoestring budgets. Giving up an extra $50 is a lot to ask of them. I think they're going to have to find the money outside the school aid fund. They may have to bond for it, but I just don't see lawmakers supporting any proposal that robs all of these other districts to pay Detroit.
Do you believe there is such a thing as Detroit fatigue?
Well, I mean, there may be, and I mean, we can talk about how appropriate that is or is not. I mean, this is the largest city in the state. It's still the economic engine of the state. If the governor himself has said over and over again, if Detroit's not healthy, Michigan will not be healthy. People have got to get used to this idea that this is part of the state. There's not Detroit and everything else, or everything else in Detroit. It's all one state, and it all rises or falls together. This idea that somehow we can just cut Detroit off and not help fix problems that were driven largely by people in other communities, by the state, by local governments. It's abdication at a level that I think is really, really mind-blowing. And to be having this conversation now, after last year, when everybody was all kumbaya about let's help the city, is particularly annoying. But let's also talk about what we're talking about here. This is debt that the state ran up. This is not debt that Detroiters put on themselves or were irresponsible and incurred. The state did it, and so they got to pay for it. And it's a false premise to say that it's, well, everybody else has to pay out of their school budgets. The state government has to come up with this money somewhere, and it's really pitting everybody else against Detroit by framing it that way, by saying it costs $50 per kid if you take it out of the school aid fund, but it's only $53 million. You could bond for it. There are other places in the budget that you could get that kind of money because it's nowhere near the billion that you need for roads.
But these folks ponied up $20 million a year for 20 years for Detroit in the last legislative session. Now they're saying, okay, now it's time to do the schools. We want another $72 million a year. I just don't see it happen. I think there is Detroit fatigue. I'm not saying whether they should do it or shouldn't do it. I agree that the debt belongs to the state. I just don't see how you get that through a legislature.
And you don't have a lot of faith that...
I don't think the legislature will vote to take $50 a kid from every other school district, but that's not the question that we're confronting.
That's the proposal.
But the question that the legislature needs to confront is, will the state be responsible for something that it did? And what if you don't? What if you don't do that? Let's look at what happens if Detroit defaults on that debt. It's the state who's responsible for it anyway. So now you're talking about it costing 1.5, maybe 2 times what you owe now. There's no alternative about paying it or not paying it. It's a question of how you pay it.
You could also make the argument, though, that if you do not get Detroit Public Schools up to par, then all the work that you have done previously through the bankruptcy, you're not going to be able to sustain and grow the city anyway. So then you could say all that was done for naught anyway.
But you have to convince them that this plan will get Detroit Public Schools up to par. And remember, this is plan number, what, 752 for getting Detroit schools up to par? I mean, this is, once again, trying to fix an entity that I'm not sure can come back to life. And I don't see this as being an easy sell in the legislature.
All right, well, turning now, the field of candidates for next year's presidential race continues to grow. As expected, Detroit native Dr. Ben Carson threw his hat in the ring this week. He came back to his hometown to make the announcement in front of his supporters at the Detroit Music Hall. The retired neurosurgeon is among a rapidly growing field of Republican candidates. Others who announced this week, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, former Hewlett-Packard CEO Carly Fiorina, and everyone is still waiting to see if Governor Rick Snyder will in fact enter the race. News broke last night. Politico reported that no, he was not going to enter the race, but his people denied and said he has not made a decision yet. He's in New York. He's going to be ringing the bell on the stock exchange floor tomorrow on Friday.
He should have heard the bell that rang Tuesday in Michigan. He's got no business out here trotting all over the country, allegedly telling Michigan's story while he flirts with a presidential run. This is a big stinking deal, these roads. This is the equivalent of a natural disaster in this state. We're not going to attract jobs and investment. We're not going to have the sort of economic growth we need with these roads in this condition. And as he said himself, they're deadly, they're dangerous, they're killing people. And we can't afford to have him, shucking corn in Iowa all summer long while these lawmakers run amok. He's got two big issues on the table. He's got roads, as we just talked about, and schools, as we talked about. Getting those deals done will require his leadership. He needs to be in the state, fully committed.
Governing.
Yeah, right. Governing and not distracted by this, fantasy of traipsing down the presidential campaign trail.
If this proposal had passed on Tuesday, would that have given him a little bit more momentum and perhaps ammo to say, you know what, I am going to start to go down the presidential path?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure anybody outside of Michigan cares what happened here Tuesday. I didn't even see the national news cover it when it happened. I think that's something that we're concerned about because we're the ones driving the lousy roads. I mean, I continue to believe that he would be he would introduce an interesting dynamic in this field. He is a more sensible and common sense driven politician than most of the other candidates who you've seen get in on the Republican side, and he might help them move the conversation back to reality because it is headed off a cliff that's gonna get them a real whooping next year at the hands of Hillary Clinton if they're not careful.
If she survives her own scandals.
Clintons have survived that stuff for 30 years.
She's going to survive.
35 years.
Had he won Tuesday, I don't know that it wouldn't have improved his national standing, but it would have given him a little more freedom and time and less to do in Lansing. He's got a big job now here at home. I don't think he's earned the right to go off running all over the country on a long shot presidential bid.
Other candidates that jumped in the field this week, Mike Huckabee, Carly Fiorina, and Ben Carson making the announcement right here in Detroit.
Yeah, there's a high quotient of crazy jumping into the race on that side. I mean, these are people with ideas that have no popular support outside a very narrow slice of the Republican Party. And if they, you get these folks on a stage come fall, talking all this crazy stuff with Jeb Bush, who is not in that camp, but he will have to play that game, and that is really, really dangerous for the party.
Same old song we've heard every year. Yeah, well,
all right,
same old song. And
you got beat twice with that strategy.
And you look at the last 3 elections on the Republican side, the last 3 candidates, all of them were fairly moderate candidates.
But they were damaged
after
by
all this yak. Meanwhile, you've got Hillary Clinton plunging to the left, trying to rally an unenthusiastic base to her, and she's going to try to win this thing all with money. It'll be interesting to see if that's possible.
Oh, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about it, because remember, 2016 is the election year.
We got about 80 shows between now and then.
Can't wait. And finally tonight,
back again.
It is, because we're a full-service operation here. All right, a couple of the headlines that we saw this week. I don't think you could go this week without talking about the announcement about development Brush Park in Detroit. The mayor was there in Bedrock Development. Dan Gilbert's people are going to be taking on Brush Park, and I think it's one of those puzzle pieces. And the mayor said it himself, that always seemed confusing why no one had ever kind of jumped in there.
No man's land just north of the stadium.
But I think it's going to be an interesting proposal, and they're going to be still saving some units for low-income housing. And
well, it is, and I mean that's a prime spot now as you go up Woodward. And I think also didn't the Illages say they were going to take that those parking lots next to the church and St. John's Church, and build. They're going to build a whole series of apartment complexes in there. So that could be quite a little hot little residential district, which is really what Detroit needs.
I mean, you think about the way this deal is put together. You've got a big developer, Dan Gilbert. You've got the city participating, but you also have substantial minority participation, city-owned businesses, and a 20% set aside for low-income housing. It's a model for the way that we can revitalize downtown and not leave people out, that you hope other people look at and say, okay, well, that's the way we ought to be doing these things.
Okay, we got 1 minute left. Stephen, what did you see this week that caught your eye?
Tom Brady's deflated balls.
And I'm not really quite sure if you can say anything more than that.
Well, that's all. It speaks for.
You really think it's going to tarnish the Tom Brady legacy?
I hope it not. I hope not. As one of my favorite players, and I mean, certainly, the 4 rings speak volumes, right? That's a big deal. But
Tom Brady.
He cheated a little. He cheated a little. There's no question.
Oh, please, a lot. Nolan, last 30 seconds.
Out to U of M last night, where John Dingell's papers are going to be housed in the Gerald Ford Presidential Library. Very impressive collection. I think it's a fitting place for his legacy to reside.
Absolutely. All right, guys, thanks so much. And that's going to do it for My Week. We're so glad that you joined us. We'd like to hear what you think about the show. Tell us what you'd like to see or any topics on your mind. We'd love to hear from you. So find us on Facebook and on Twitter and tell us what you think. Plus, head to MiWeek.org right now. Nolan, Stephen, and I are going to continue the conversation. It's a little something extra that you won't see on TV. I'm Christy McDonald. Have a great night, and we will see you next time for My Week. Take care.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta.